honorable dignitaries on and off the dais, my dear researchers, students and rest of the people who have assembled here. It is indeed a great pleasure to be here in this, because I was just hearing Dr. Savitri talking about the history of the institute, and thank you. It was quite insightful because for a moment, even though I knew it, for a moment I didn't realize that it was regional research laboratories that got translated into CSIR NIIST, because when I was a student, RRL used to be a place where people go and do their projects, and that's the only knowledge that I had about that institute. But then, before I joined as the CEO of Startup Mission, I actually went and had a small sitting with Dr. Sanjeev Gopinath, asking for his advice and gyan. And so he generally classified products or services, everything, into 4 different buckets. One was adopt, adapt, innovate, and invent. And rightly so, I've used that in many speeches now. So thanks. You should copyright that. So adoption is nothing but you're adopting a product that is already existing in the market, and we have no role to play in that. But adapting and innovating is wherein you change, and I give 3 different buckets. You change a product, a process, or a business model through some sort of technology. It need not be information technology. It can be biotechnology, it can be material sciences, it can be any kind of technology that is coming your way. You change a product, a process, or a business model so that you can create a exponentially growing business. If I am selling for 100 rupees today, I should be able to sell for 10,000 rupees or 1 lakh by doing this exercise. And that is where the startup thing will come into the picture. But let alone the adaptation and innovation, there was a 4th bucket, which is the invention. And that is where the biggest value for the country that is going to come, right? We haven't invented, we have been consumers. You look around us. I mean, somebody was telling me, I think it was Vishnath sir, or somebody was telling me, you look at this room, look at all the electronics that was Alkesh sir, in our discussion. You go to a conference, you look at your room, you look at everything that is around you, all the electronics that is around you, 80% of that is imported, that is coming from some other country, right? You look at your drugs that you consume, other than the generics, everything is coming from a foreign country. You look at the Facebooks, the Googles, the Twitters, the WhatsApps that you use for communication, everything is coming from a foreign country. We kind of remain consumers of a larger ecosystem, and we don't produce, we don't invent. And that is where I think the biggest value is going to come from. And I took that to my heart, and I've been working with Dr. Deepu Krishnan, he must be here somewhere, very closely in going and visiting some of these research institutes across the state. And it's very interesting that you see quite a lot of good work that has been done by many researchers. When we went to NIIT, I was actually very surprised to see a researcher who is working on graphene, and we are only in the process of actually setting up a graphene center here in Kerala. So people are already working on 2D materials. So those kind of activities are happening. And the biggest problem is you hit a roadblock at a certain amount of time. You don't know what to do. You have done your PhD, you have done your publications, you might have got an admission into a postdoc in a foreign university, and you pretty much end up there, and that's it. It doesn't move forward. So what do you need to do? I think, at least from a Startup Mission objective perspective, I need each of you to think whether you can translate your research into a commercial product. Think about it. You don't need to do it, but think about it. See if there is an application. If you feel that there is an application, then I see 3 different models in which a researcher can turn into an entrepreneur. A researcher can actually give it to an entrepreneur, let him or her run with that product, and you will get some money for it, right? Very difficult to do within the institutional setup, but we'll have to figure out, these are the places where we have roadblocks, and we'll have to figure out ways in which we should be able to work. Second, a researcher and an entrepreneur can join together and form a company and then take it forward, right? So somebody business savvy is going to come, somebody scientific is going to come together, and then you form a company and go forward. The third one is the researcher himself becomes an entrepreneur. I haven't seen that happening that quite often, but there are examples. If you look at the global scenario, we have seen very successful researchers translated into products by the researcher himself or herself, right? So these are the three different models under which we can work, by which you will be able to translate your research into a potential product. Now, why NIIST? I'm very excited about NIIST, ma'am. I'll tell you why. So we've been talking to NIIST with Praveen for a very, so many interactions that we have had before. And one day we visited. And we spent probably 3 hours with a select set of 15 researchers, right? And after that, 2 of the researchers actually took me to their lab and showed me, explained to me the projects that they were doing. Most of the things went over my head. But what did not go over my head was the enthusiasm, that the passion that these researchers had about the research that they're doing and how passionate are they about translating that into a product. It was amazing. And then I actually asked them, like, what is your credentials? And some of them have studied in Caltech and the Carnegie Mellons and some of the top universities of the world, and they've come back, much like your name I forgot. Biju Davis, who has gone abroad and had his stint and coming back and now contributing back to the institute. That shows the quality of the institute. And then I have my 2 favorite people from Varsia who has picked up some technology from NIIST, and I personally have big belief. I keep telling them that I've got big belief about you guys. I keep supporting them all the time, and I personally believe that someday they're going to be a big story for Kerala, with the help of the technology that has come out of NIIST. So then I asked Praveen, can we have a small incubation center here where we'll be able to handhold some of these people and take them to the next level. And it took you what, one week before he identified a space, sent us the sketch. Now the ball is in my court. It has been for some time. I'll take care of it. But the reciprocity or the speed at which people actually reacted to certain requests was extremely brilliant. And so unlike a government organization, I'll tell you that for sure. So there was a large amount of energy that was given back to us. And then we actually arranged a design thinking workshop with these 15 researchers, which I also heard that it went very well. Praveen, any thoughts on that? It was well accepted? Yeah, so a lady came from Mumbai, I forgot the name, Bangalore. She actually spent some time doing a design thinking workshop, which kind of makes your thinking a little slightly different, because you're always thinking about your academic research. You need to slightly change and see what problem are you solving, right? So that was another good exercise that we did. But combine all this together, the huge amount of intellectual knowledge that is lying around, the institutional mechanism that is actually supporting us with a high amount of energy, the risk capital that Dr. Sajid Gopinath talked about, wherein you will be able to now associate with an industry and the government will actually put some money into that exercise so that that risk is mitigated. We have a startup mission which will be able to, and if you want to actually do this, you come to us and we'll make sure that we will support you in that journey. And we have Sharath, who's going to be talking a little later from KEED, who represents the industries department. So if it's something that has to do with manufacturing or production, then we have all the people that will be able to help you in your pursuit. So I'm hoping that this startup conclave is going to be a beginning for you to start thinking, right? Beyond your PhD, beyond your postdocs, am I going to create a company? Am I going to create a company like Varsia, which is going to be big someday, which is going to make a big change, which will eventually contribute to what is called Amrit Kal. With that, I would like to wish this conclave and this whole week to be a very joyous and intellectually stimulating one, and all the very best for everybody who is participating, and thank you for inviting me today.